This is a very small book. Luckily, I didn't pay the full price because the full price was something like $15. And when I received it, also if I paid, I think $6-7, I was kind of disappointed because I thought, oh my god, it's so small. Watch this. It's a kind of pamphlet, we could say. But there is one thing that you must understand. Sometimes it's worth to pay $5-10 if you get a lesson that will last for a lifetime. In this case, I want to show you a game inside here, and the thoughts by Grandmaster McDonald that counter the thoughts of a world champion and one of the top players of more than 70 years ago. This is kind of very important because today, guys, you have the evaluation bar or the computer telling you who is winning or if a certain move is correct or not. But in this case, we see that a former world champion that was a really good player and one of the top players of a certain period, Ninzovic, were not able to evaluate what happened in a certain game correctly. If they were not able to evaluate it, how can we, that we are average club players? Think about it. Okay, so we are obviously in this book there is a chapter called Theoretical and Standard Sacrifices. The game presented here is Ninzovic Capablanca, St. Petersburg, 1914. Okay, e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, knight c3, knight f6. This is the four knights, right? Bishop b5, d6, d4, bishop d7, bishop takes c6, bishop takes c6, queen d3, e takes d4, knight takes d4, and g6. Here he says, as black blunder a pawn. Ninzovic certainly thought so and eagerly played. What did he play? Knight takes c6. Why? Because after b takes c6 there is queen a6. Okay, and so while black plays queen d7 to protect it, queen b7, rook c8, and boom, the pawn is gone. Okay, now this is all the reasoning that it's very important for which I show you this game. Okay, because the black player is Capablanca. In 1914 he was really strong. He was super strong. He was not an old Capablanca, okay? This was a young Capablanca that was like a train, steamrolling everybody in front of him. And here I tell you this part. Now white is a pawn up and apparently has a safe position. In his book, Bobby Fischer and his predecessors, published by Bell in 1976, of remarks at move 8, okay, so move 8, which is g6, that it was not so difficult to see the loss of a pawn by force in 2 or 3 moves, but Capablanca apparently did not imagine that such a thing could happen in the solid Steinitz defense over Rui Lopez. Capablanca's mistakes are just as clear as his good moves. Neither Ninzovic nor Ov could comprehend that Capablanca had deliberately sacrificed the pawn. Ov calls it an accident with a happy ending. Capablanca himself saw things somewhat differently. And it's written here, I believe Ninzovic has been unjustly criticized for losing the game. The critics have all suggested moves here and there, but the games of the great masters are not played by single moves, but must be played by connected plans of attack and defense. And these they are not given. And this they have not given. It's a quotation from My Chess Career, Macmillan, 1920. I have this book, My Chess Career, in these three books together, right? So this comment shows a deep appreciation of strategy that Ov and Ninzovic strangely didn't have. So I don't know why, but can you imagine? This is really a confrontation, right? Between different schools of thought. Ninzovic on one side played taking bet, which means he thought he was winning. Ov, analyzing this game, thinks, hey, white is winning, that's a mistake. Capablanca says, no, that's not a mistake. This is my plan. This is what I wanted to play. So I don't know what to tell you guys. And again, I didn't use an engine. Ov didn't use an engine. Ninzovic couldn't use an engine. So nobody of them could actually establish the truth. Now, McDonald, on the other hand, this book as published in 1994, also probably didn't have a strong engine to establish the truth, because definitely 1994, imagine I had a good engine in 2012 and it would take more than half an hour to justify some games in which there was the Greek gift, and the Greek gift, that would be when the bishop takes on h7, was correct. But the engine would take more than half an hour to show the correct evaluation in 2012. Here we are in 1995, probably McDonald didn't have a good engine, and of course Ov and Ninzovic couldn't rely on that either. So if we would be without engines, what would you say? Would you say it's a mistake by Capablanca, or Capablanca was right? And that's the thing here. Okay, bishop g7 is how the game continued. Castle, castle. Black is able to improve his position with a step-by-step plan. This could consist of the following, because remember guys, this is a book about positional sacrifice, so what is meant here is that a7 was a positional sacrifice, okay? So the plan would be, place the rooks on a and b file, okay, a and b file, because they are open now, so yeah, that improves the position. Maneuver the knight to c4 via g4 and d5. So g4, e5, c4. Notice if it was Kasparov, he would just go directly there, in case you are not at the board. Like it happened a couple of times and it was recorded. Okay, that's a funny part. Win one or more of white's queenside pawns by the intense pressure of all. Black's pieces, the bishop on g7, exerts enormous pressure on white's position. Yeah, because you see, open file and open diagonal. Yeah, it starts to make sense, right? Meanwhile, what should white do? He has no obvious plan, except the vague notion that he should defend and win with his extra pawn, because obviously the white says my idea is a4, a5, a6, boom, and promote, right? Because I have a pass pawn, right? This shows one of the key features of a good positional sacrifice. It deprives the opponent of a good plan, while the sacrificer still has means to strengthen his position. The game continued with queen a6, right? Rook f e8, queen d3. So imagine how many moves were spent for taking that, and of course Capablanca capitalized on them. Queen e6, f3, knight d7, bishop d2, knight e5, queen e2, and knight c4. Rook a b1, defending the pawn on b2, rook a8. Black's plan gradually unfolds while white flounders. a4. Now guys, if you were black, what would you play here? Because sometimes it's important to know, right? Capablanca played knight takes d2, removing the one piece that could challenge the supremacy of black dominant g7 bishop. So that was an important move. Queen takes d2, queen c4, rook f d1, and rook e b8. As you can see, he has both the rooks on the open file, and that's kind of interesting. Plus the fact that also this bishop exerts his influence on the diagonal. Yes, you could say that black has a better position. And here what McDonald says, he says, black's pieces are now beautifully coordinated. Every piece contributes to the plan of attack on the queen side, and white doesn't have a ghost of counterplay. Queen e3, rook b4, and queen g5. All white can do is respond to one move threat. There is no harmony among his pieces. Bishop d4, check, king h1, rook a b8. So this is going down, it seems. The pressure intensifies. Now white has no choice but sacrifice the exchange, since obviously the threat is bishop takes e3. If you take, the game is over, right? So what does white do? White has to give up this rook to remove this from the board. Rook takes d4, queen takes d4, rook d1, queen c4. And here it says now b2 is dropping and white's game collapses. The final moves were h4, rook takes b2, queen d2, queen c5, probably going, rook e1, yeah, queen h5, obviously, rook a1, queen takes h4, king g1, king h5, queen h5, a5, rook a8, a6, queen c5, check, king h1, queen c4, a7, queen c5, and here Nintsovich resigned. Here it says, this game, one of Capablanca's best, is not included in Golombek's book on Capablanca's 100 best game, like Ov and Ninzovic, Kolombek, it seemed, believed Capablanca had simply blundered a pawn. Almost any strong modern player would appreciate the value of Capablanca's concept. Why then were Ov and Ninzovic, two of the strongest players in history of chess, blind to the merits of the sacrifice? The answer is that they had never seen such a concept before. They had no internal model against which to judge the sacrifice. Therefore, it was easy to believe that the pawn offer was simply a blunder. But the question remains. Okay? If Ov and Ninzovic could not understand the sacrifice, how could Capablanca conceive it? Well, the answer for McDonald is Capablanca was a genius. And probably he was, right? Because Alekhine was scared to give him a chance to play another World Championship, which means he knew that Capablanca was the strongest of the two. Again, it's a very small book, but as you can see in this case, it has given us this game by Capablanca that is very, very beautiful, and that gives this positional sacrifice that two of the strongest players in history couldn't even understand. Guys, if you like, get this book because definitely it will teach you something about chess that other players didn't do, right? Other writers didn't do. I'm honestly happy that I got this little booklet. Thank you very much for watching.